Managing disrespectful behavior in children. Hi, hi, hi. You're welcome back. It is Friday Brew with Coach Wendy. And have you subscribed to this video? If you haven't, do that right now. You know, disrespectful behavior can be very challenging, but it's a crucial part of parenting. Of course, I'm going to be sharing with you a comprehensive guide on how you can approach it effectively, how you can focus on understanding the root causes, how you can use positive communication and set clear boundaries with your children. If the first thing you think about when your child actually disrespects you is that this child is on a mission, why would this child do this kind of thing to me after everything I've done for her? Then you're thinking of mission instead of you to actually think of the why. How do you begin to understand the root causes? Of course, disrespectful behavior is often a sign of an underlying issue. So before you address that behavior, it's important you understand why it might actually be happening. It might just be that that child is communicating something to you. Possible reasons will include number one, seeking attention. Yeah, you heard me right. Children may actually out just so that they can get a reaction, even if it's a negative attention. Now, I usually say that negative attention is better than no attention for a child because for a child, attention is food. So, are you going to just sit and just look and just think to yourself, oh, the child is just seeking attention, whatever? No, you need to do something to help the child. Number two, lack of emotional regulation skills is also one of the reasons that children can actually do that. Maybe the child is still learning how to manage strong feelings. Unfortunately, we rarely teach our children what to do. A child does something, the child is disrespectful. You are focused on, you are rude. Why are you rude? And then you give the child mass boost, like we say in Nigeria Palace, for being rude. And then what? Nobody ever actually teaches a child that this is what you're supposed to do if you are, talking, or this is how to actually communicate respectfully. One of the things that we do in the academy is that we create courses, and part of the course that is coming for the next month is dealing with sibling rivalry. Trust me, that course gives you access to actually be able to teach your children how to communicate effectively. I have learned that effective communication is something we assume, and that's why most of us finished growing up. We are now in our adulthood, and then we're all sitting in our married houses because I'm talking to parents, or even those of us who have children. Of course, you're not communicating with children, and then you don't know how to talk. And then you hear parents say, "It's my child. I can say to my child whatever I wish." No, you have bad behavior and you need to deal with it. And part of dealing with it is that you need to learn how to communicate. Maybe the reason why your child actually is rude is because you're constantly yelling. Have you thought of it? Maybe why your child cannot really resolve conflict from is because you're constantly screaming. Have you thought of it? Maybe it's just because you haven't learned how to communicate properly yourself. Another reason is that your child might be mimicking adult behavior. Children learn by example. Yes, if they witness disrespectful communication or behavior in adults, they may actually begin to do that. Anytime somebody tells me a child is rude, I say to the person, check your environment. Are you looking up and down at your spouse? Sometimes I have seen fathers talk to their wives in the most rude part that I cannot even imagine. The wife is telling you about something, and then you're just brushing your wife out. Your children can watch, they can see. Or even that your husband is saying something, you're looking at your husband from head to toe, and then you are talking about disrespectful his behavior. Come closer. Your child will become disrespectful if they do not see a sample in their environment to follow. Next one. There is also the part of unmet emotional needs. A child who feels ignored, unheard, may act out just to cry for help. So you call the child will not answer you. Maybe the child is just acting out so that they can be heard. And lastly, inconsistent discipline. You see that unpredictability you brag about. Oh, my children, anytime that they do, I will just slap them. They don't know I'm going to react. Unpredictability is evil. Yes, I said it. Trust me. I have read through the scriptures and I have not seen God being inconsistent or being unpredictable. It's the evil side of it that is unpredictable. So yes, unpredictability. I love the scripture that talks about the Father of light, in whom there is no variableness, talking about God the Father. And God expects us to be like him. The Bible says, looking up to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. One of the things you must learn on your journey as a parent is how to become predictable. Is a thing. Your children will need to understand you Unpredictability breeds instability. You don't want it for your child. Some children actually turn out to become disrespectful in the face of instability and unpredictability. Now, what do you do? How do you communicate with your child on if you are managing disrespect? Number one thing you want to do when you sense any form of disrespect is that you need to stay calm. Your reaction can either escalate or de-escalate the situation. If you get angry, your child is likely to follow. Take a deep breath. Take a moment. Calm down and you respect and you respond. I was listening to my intentional parenting journey. It is where the inner circle parents actually share about their journey of what happened in the academy in the last 1 year, 2 or 3, depending on how long they've been there. And I was listening to Brenda, and Brenda said, before I got into the inner circle, my daughter used to look at me in the face and say, I hate you. I don't know the kind of mother that you are. And she said, I used to get very upset, bitter, escalated, and it didn't solve the problem until I joined the inner circle and started learning the strategy. And she said, just before I came out to this session, my daughter looked at me and said, Kai, I just love you, mom. Can you beat that? And I'm talking about a teenager. So if you're facing difficulty with your teenager, fire for fire will not solve the problem. Number two, be a role model. Speak to your child and others with the same respect that you want to receive. If you want sarcasm, rude tone, your child will likely do the same. If you are rude to people, you are rude to your subordinates, you are rude to the people that you work with, your children are going to pick same. I've seen people treat people who work with them like they are trash. When you're talking to them and you're literally talking to your subordinates like they don't exist. Sometimes your children hear you on the phone. Sometimes your children hear you even the things that you're not saying. How you look, your countenance, all of this count. And also for your spouse. How do you treat your spouse at home? What do your children see? The next thing that you want to consider is that you want to talk at the right time. Address the issue when both you and the child are calm. This prevents conversation from getting into an argument. You can say, we need to talk about what happened, but we will wait until both of us have a chance to calm down so that you can de-escalate the whole problem. What I'm teaching you is not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be learned. And that's why you need the inner circle program. That's why you need the dealing with sibling rivalry course, because it is going to actually give you tools to be able to do this. And then next, you need to be clear and specific. Avoid saying things like, don't be rude. What does that mean? Very many times we actually tell our children vague things. Instead, describe the behavior and how it makes you feel. For instance, I felt hot when you called me names. It focuses on the behavior, not just the child's character. So the child understands that name calling is wrong. And many times I say that we don't always even teach our children what to say instead. There are a lot of don'ts. Don't be rude. Don't be rude. What else should I be doing? Most times a child doesn't even understand it. And you need to understand to use the I statements. Frame your focus around your feeling rather than accusing your child. For example, I feel frustrated when you interrupt me. It's more effective than you are always interrupting me. Can you see the difference? I have a book called Solving Family Problem Through Effective Communication. You should get a copy if you're battling with a child who has issues with conversations and communication. I'm sure that you can get a copy using the description in this video. Because a lot of the times, the problem is how we communicate. The problem is our scripting more than what it is that we're just saying. And then lastly, have them try again. If your child speaks disrespectfully, you can calmly prompt them to try again using a more polite tone. For example, if they say, get me a snack now, maybe to the help, maybe to the driver, maybe to whoever, you can respond, can you try that again in a kinder tone? Or can you do that yourself since you cannot respond respectfully? You need to begin to tell them what to do. And when you do that, it helps them and it positions them to actually be able to do things differently. Now, you need to set clear boundaries and there has to be consequences. When your child is rude, don't let it just slide. Provide consequences. When disrespect occurs, have a plan for the consequence. This should be immediate and it should be related to the misbehavior. Those are loss of privileges, restitution. If a child is disrespectful and it causes harm, like it gets somebody angry and all of that, they need to make amends. They need to understand and they need to fix it or do something kind to the person that they hurt. It's important that you teach your children that there are consequences for every action. Of course, you can also give them a timing. So instead of timeout, I actually teach my children that you do timing. You go and sit with yourself and understand what has happened. And when you do, you come back to actually have that conversation. So in my book, The Discipline is Not an Emergency. In that book, I shared how timing is actually more effective than a timeout. So let them learn to also take in and sit with themselves to actually begin to think of a more effective way to actually solve that problem. And lastly, you need to be consistent. The most important part of discipline is consistency. If you sometimes, do something about disrespectful behavior and you sometimes let it slide, other times you discipline, other times you provide consequences. If your child learn to test your boundaries, and that will be it, they will continue to push and to push. If you're consistent, for every time you are rude, there is a consequence for it. Your child will learn that there's a consequence for an unruly behavior. This is where I end today's session, and this is where I end today's Friday Brief with Coach Wendy. I am sure that you have picked out a lot, and I want to see you share this video with a family and a friend. Don't forget to subscribe to this video, to share, to connect, to also share in the comment section one thing you've picked and one thing you're going to be doing differently. But beyond that, I wish to let you know that parenting is learned, is not assumed. For everything that you want to do on your journey as a parent, you must learn exactly how to do it. That's why I bring you good news. Get into the inner circle for the next session, and you will have me to thank for that. See you again in the next session. My name is Wendy Ologe, and I'm called Africa's #1 parent coach. I'm the founder of the Intentional Parent Academy. See ya.